Our speaker this morning is Mason Moore. Mason is a 4-year boarding student from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. He is co-president of the Student Government Association and captain of the boys varsity lacrosse team. He's the proud younger sibling of Max, Liza, and Kat, and the proud 4-year roommate and best friend of Cole Thomas. Mason?
Good morning, everyone. Hill is not transactional. This fall, one of the first days of my English class with Mrs. Neese, we were reading a paper on how to properly approach reading short stories in class. And I was immediately struck from a description of a journey from the book, How to Read Literature Like a Professor, where a journey was described as having 5 key elements. 1, a quester, the person on the quest. 2, a destination. 3, a stated purpose for the journey. 4, challenges that must be faced on the path to the destination. 5, the discovered reason for the person to go on the destination or their learned purpose. While this describes a typical journey a protagonist goes through in literature, I found this to relate perfectly to the journey that all of us are going through at Hill, as I see the experience of going to school here as a journey. The first element is simple, a person. So in all of your cases, that person is you, and in my case, that person is me. The second element is the destination. While I may be generalizing, I think most of us share a common goal of graduating and jumping in the Dell. There are small destinations along the way, like finishing periods, weeks, terms, etc., but they are built up to the ultimate goal of graduating from Hill. The third element is your stated purpose. Essentially, what's your why for graduating Hill? The answer is likely different for all of us. Think back to your first day at Hill, whether it was 4 years ago or 8 months ago, and think about what your answer would have been to these 2 questions. Why did you come to Hill, and why do you want to graduate? Maybe some of you aren't sure what your initial purpose was for coming to Hill. Maybe you came to Hill because it was the only opportunity you were given to attend boarding school. Maybe, like me, your siblings came here, so you just followed suit. Maybe it's because you were recruited here to play a sport and you use the classic line, the only reason I'm here is to play, insert sport name here. Maybe you want to graduate from Hill because of its reputation and what can come as a result of it. Some, all, or none of these may apply to you. For me, this answer is a bit complicated. I'm the youngest in my family and I have 3 older siblings, all of whom graduated from Hill. Growing up, Hill was a major staple of my life. Always being on campus, visiting my siblings, watching games. Not only was I physically on campus often, but in many ways, my family's life revolved around Hill. So when I got the call on March 10th, 2020, that I was accepted, I was elated and made the decision a few days later to attend. You all may have some recollection of what happened around that time. They say it was big. Some even called it a pandemic. The following few months, I was stuck at home with my siblings, who all filled my head with Hill lore, the amazing place that Hill was, and how much I would just simply love it. By the time of my arrival, I had heard enough. This place couldn't be all that great. After all, it is just a school. By the time of my arrival, I'd built up Hill to simply be just that, a school, a place for me to learn, play sports, make friends, and then leave. I'd given myself a clear and concise reason for attending Hill, to simply attend it. The fourth element of the journey is the challenges faced along the way to the destination. All of us experience challenges at Hill, and challenges we keep far away from here. For me, my challenges range in importance and their relevance to my growth at Hill. I've spoken publicly about my injury history. Believe it or not, through the perspective gained and support gleaned, these injuries, or challenges in this analogy, have enhanced my Hill experience. The challenges are everything at Hill, even the little ones. Like the daily rigor of tying your tie, putting your blazer on, carrying the stack at the end of seated lunch, they all build up. Hill is an incredibly structured and strict environment, in the sense that you are required to be somewhere at all hours of the day. You are required to arrive on time. You are required to be in proper dress, and you are required to behave with proper decorum. These are universal and are challenges that we've all gone through together. Individually, people may struggle in any facet of Hill. In the classroom, studio, field, dorm, or stage, all of us have at some point not been our best in one of these areas. Some of you may resent me for saying this, but truthfully, whatever you're going through, I promise there is some aspect of it that will help you in the long run and will help you find your discovered reason. Personally, I've experienced failure, success, failure again, and so on, but these challenges have molded me and helped me find my discovered reason. So element 5, the discovered reason. My discovered reason for attending Hill is you. Yes, I believe that in this very moment may encapsulate my discovered reason for attending Hill. I don't mean me sitting up here yapping for 15 minutes. I mean all of you watching, listening, and respecting our community. There's a distinct feeling in the air, one that will grow in the coming week. Some call it Hill pride, others call it Hillness, and I think both of these are adequate words to describe it. But I also simply think it's love. Love for our school, love for our community, and most importantly, love for one another. That's my why. Because our time spent at Hill together, it isn't transactional. Hill is not transactional. It is not a give and take exchange. We are not here to simply give our time, receive an education, graduate, and then move on. We are here to develop genuine connections, establish mutual trust, and maintain an interest in the well-being of the physical place that is Hill and the people that occupy it. Initially, I viewed Hill as a larger-than-life place that I deemed to be overblown. I didn't understand what made Hill different than a normal school. However, I can now say that you all are special, that the strength of our community is unmatched, that our time spent here is far from over just by jumping in the Dell in 8 short days, and most importantly, I learned that Hill is not transactional. Take your role as a role model seriously. On July 31st, 2022, on a late summer night, I texted incoming 5th former Zach Warren. Yo, Zach, it's Mason Moore. Just wanted to reach out to you and offer to be a bit of help if you have any questions for packing, for Hill, or anything like that. Let me know if you have any questions about anything. Just 15 minutes later, Zach responded, yo, with 4 O's. How you been? I got no clue what to pack, so help would be appreciated. So I, being the good guy I am, responded quickly with a lengthy paragraph about all there is to know about our Hill packing list. Just kidding, I straight up didn't respond and left him unread. I didn't talk to Zach until we were in person the following fall. So Zach, I'm sorry for not responding, buddy. Thank you for forgiving me, and I'm proud to call you my true friend. Some of you may not be surprised to hear that I didn't respond to a text or email. Somewhere out there, Reet and Mrs. Winter are nodding their heads yes. Some of you may just think I'm a jerk for not responding to an incoming student. And some of you may just think that this isn't a big deal at all. To me, I think this anecdote can serve as a learning experience for all of us. At Hill, I've had the great privilege of being the SGA co-president, a prefect, and captain of the boys lacrosse team, among other things. I've been able to learn a lot from these experiences and think that these roles have helped me mature and gain perspective. However, many of you in the audience may not be a captain, may not be a prefect, or want to become involved in organizations around campus like the SGA. And that is totally okay. Because when I look back at Hill, most of my role models, they weren't any of these things. They did not hold formal leadership positions. They were just upperclassmen that I looked up to. One of the things true at all high schools, especially at Hill, is that we all need role models. And we all have role models. Every 6th former in this room is a role model to a student. While your impacts may vary, all of you have impacted a 3rd through 5th former in some capacity. I'm serious when I say that you, every underclassman, are or will soon be a leader. Our community's strength is built off the backs of our students, largely because of our actions' impact on one another. In my case with texting Zach, I was not a good leader. I let both him and myself down. I offered support and I didn't follow through. This isn't the only time when I fell short as leader at Hill. There have been many times when I didn't conduct myself in a manner in which I am proud of, and many mistakes I made manning the lectern at lunch. But that's okay. So to the future formal leaders in this room, the prefects, the captains, the presidents, you too will fall short. But to everyone else who will inevitably lead, you will experience similar shortcomings, and that is okay. But what I ask is that you take your role as a role model seriously. You understand how your actions may influence one or may influence many. To all of you, the future and current leaders in this room, be a trailblazer, be a shoulder to cry on, be vocal, be quiet, be stoic. You can be all of these things or none of them. But most importantly, Be your authentic self, and know that whether you choose to be or not, you are a leader. So take your role as a role model seriously. The tears shed are tears of joy, not tears of sadness. For those of you who experienced Hill in the 2020 to 2021 school year, the one word that comes to mind to describe that year is weird. Due to COVID restrictions, the 3rd through 5th form left campus a few days before the 6th formers' commencement. Instead of being present at their commencement, our last day with them was spent at the Strawberry Festival, which is the day where yearbooks are signed and the J-Ball Championship is played. Quick shout out to the Hungry Hippos and the trophy we'll be hoisting next Wednesday. Go Hippos. While I certainly wasn't thick as thieves with the multitude of 6th formers, I remember feeling strange about the 6th formers graduating and realizing that Hill would never be exactly the same again. I wasn't brought to tears, but I hugged a few 6th formers, thanked them for their guidance, signed some yearbooks, headed back to my dorm, and left campus the next day. The week of commencement my 4th form year is very memorable. I remember sitting in your seats, in the alumni chapel, of course, and listening to then SGA co-presidents Sarah and Noah's chapel talks. These talks hit me hard, and they hit me in a strange way. I began to have a pit in my stomach, centered around the class 2022 leaving. I couldn't quite describe it at the time, but this pit continued to grow and eventually grew into an itch in my throat. My sister Catherine, who was also a member of that class, and the reality that I would be on my own at Hill began to sink in. All the upperclassmen who had led me through COVID and through the entirety of my 4th form year were leaving. So at commencement, I was a mess. I watched in awe as the people I looked up to jumped in the Dell and embraced them as they got out. After a few more tears shed, I said my goodbyes, took some pictures, said thank you, and went about my day. The following spring was the hardest. As a 5th former, my entire Hill experience was shared with the class of 2023. My best friends were set to graduate, and my experience at Hill was bound to change dramatically after their departure. I had built up commencement as a day where I would be crushed, and dreaded its inevitable arrival. I'd yet to cry during the commencement ceremonies, but as they began to jump in the Dell and make their way to the nearby grass, I cracked and began to cry. This is not a pretty sight, I assure you. I am by every metric an ugly crier, so try to look away next Saturday during commencement. Now, while some of these stories surrounding my experiences during the past 3 commencements may seem too personal or even depressing, I assure you, tears will be shed over the coming days, and especially on the day of commencement. I would venture to say that some of these tears originate from underformers grieving 6th formers' departure from campus, and from 6th formers grieving the loss of Hill in their life. Tears are a form of grief, but they are also a form of love. In a way, I think it's special that we are moved enough by the relationships built here that we express that level of emotion during commencement. While thinking of this, I'm reminded of Mr. Yinger's chapel talk from this fall. Among the many things he covers, the core of it touches on the idea of legacy, and that his former colleagues and mentors live vicariously through him. Essentially, those who inspired us will continue to impact our future interactions due to their lasting impact on us. I think the same idea can be branched to the idea of the 6th form graduating. Yes, Hill will never be the exact same again after our form graduates. However, I believe what Mr. Yinger said, and I believe it relates back to what I touched on earlier in regards to all of us being leaders. Each member of the 6th form has impacted at least one underclassman, and this impact doesn't just disappear when we graduate. We will be with all of you as you continue your journeys at Hill and beyond. So I hope all of you find peace in knowing that your impact on one another has just begun, and that the 6th formers have influenced our school positively and will continue to do so in some capacity. So I will probably cry next Saturday, and I'm sure some of you may cry as well. But if this emotion comes up for you, and for some it won't, let yourself smile at the thought of how lucky we are to have had these great times with one another. Please know that the tears shed are tears of joy, not tears of sadness. I truly can't express how genuinely proud I am to be associated with each and every single one of you. To the 3rd and 4th formers, embrace it. Embrace the challenges you face daily, by term, or yearly, because you don't want to be in my position when you're 8 days away from the Dell and wish you didn't embrace the moments at Hill where things weren't quite going in your favor. It's worth it, I promise you. Embrace the fact that you will soon be, or already are, leaders in our community. And embrace the meaningful relationships you've already begun to form here. relationships that may even bring you to tears someday soon. To the fifth formers, what an awesome form. In the days following commencement, you walk around campus with a newly formed sense of purpose, pride, and a bit of confusion. She's all yours. It is now your responsibility to lead by example. Continue to be the leaders you have become, and remember to take your role as role models seriously. Sixth form year is not easy. It is filled with challenges, but also filled with joy. Embrace it and seek your discovered reason. To my sixth formers, my best friends, my people, here we are in our last chapel and beginning to embark on our last week. The end of our time as students here will soon come to an end. But I know our form. I know the quality of character that will be surrounding me when we jump in the Dell. And I know our impact on Hill, on one another, and on the world are just beginning. In the coming days, express gratitude to those around you as you or they depart Hill. Write a note to your teachers, coaches, and dorm parents. Shake an underformer's hand and wish them luck in their future at Hill. Over the coming days, utilize words like thank you, good luck, and see you later. I came across the word enuma, a noun defined as the bittersweet feeling of realizing that a certain period of your life, or even an entire relationship, is coming to an end. I love this word, and I think it describes our form's feeling about leaving, and our time as physical students coming to an end. However, our relationships formed with each other and with our school are far from over. To all of you, please know that Hill is not transactional, that you all are leaders, and to take your role as role models seriously. That the tears you may shed over the coming days are not tears of sadness, they are tears of joy. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you all for enriching my life, and continue to go out and do good in the world. Thank you.
Please remain standing for the dismissal.